What's up, YouTube? It's been a minute. Apologize for that. I'm sure there are a million questions. You know, what's going on with the car? I don't think I need to answer that. Where's the podcast? How are you doing? What are you doing? Why haven't you been posting? Blah, blah, blah. Not going to answer any questions in this video. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about some LS400 stuff, which I think is not talked about enough, especially for people who have slammed LS400s or any cars that have similar suspension. Today we're going to be talking about roll center adjusters and why they are so important on a car like this that is slammed to the ground. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, in this video, I've got a few pieces from my good friends over at DaytonOne. They're based out of Dayton, Ohio. They have actually been the company that have made engine trans spacers for these cars for a really long time, and I think they just noticed that they sell a lot of them and was like, well shit, you know, what else could we make for LS400 people, because clearly there's demand, which is great for you guys because any of you guys that have been around for a minute have been building an LS400. There is not a whole lot of aftermarket support here in the US. You know, people are making certain parts like roll center adjusters or negative roll center adjusters. Usually it's just like an individual that was able to get, you know, a set designed and made, and they just do small batches. It's pretty hard to like mass produce anything for such a niche market. But the guys at DaytonOne are taking the risk and they are making some products. So I wanted to help them out because, you know, I support the people that support me, great group of guys. So we're going to be talking about some DaytonOne stuff here, and if you already know about roll center adjusters or negative roll center adjusters, you already know what they do, you already have them, you already know you don't need them or don't want them, or maybe you can't run negative roll center adjusters. Well, look, I'm going to cover every single option from roll center adjusters to negative roll center adjusters, and also the reason I say people who know about this stuff, stick around because we've come up with something new that I think will be a game changer and fix a lot of the issues that most people find with negative roll centers. So I'll take all of these out and I will show you what we have here. Pretty nice looking box. I don't have a fucking knife in here, so you know, we've got a screwdriver to open this shit with. In the first box, roll center adjusters. Second box, more RCAs, slightly different size. All right, third box, this one's a little bit bigger. These are negative roll centers. That's what they look like. They're gold, they're big. And then last but definitely not least, this is what I'm really excited about. These right here are minimum negative roll center adjusters. This is going to make a difference to the way that your car rides. It is going to make a difference to the way that you wear through your tires and how your suspension feels. And I'm going to show you right now with the products that I have right here from DaytonOne, what each thing does and the pros and cons. Roll center adjusters in their most simple form, little spacers. If it'll focus, look at my face. Simple, just spacers. They basically go right on here and then spaces your knuckle upwards. I'm going to put these on and then we're going to put the wheel on here so that you can actually get a look as to what it is doing and what it looks like. Should also mention I have two different sizes. This smaller one is 30 mil and this one is 35 millimeters. Right now I'm just going to put the 30 mil ones in there just so that I can show you. Obviously they provide you with the bolts that you need. These are long enough. They've got little washers on there too, which are actually gold, which matches. That's cool. All I'm going to do now is just jack this up to emulate suspension compression. It's not going very well right now. Hold on. This may not be a bad thing for some people, but when it comes to, you know, stance cars, fitment is everything, and it can be really thrown off by a major movement. I'm talking about caster. So LS400s do not have adjustable caster arms unless you have T-demand lower control arms, but if you have those, you actually have roll center adjusters and everything built into that. So you don't really need to worry about any of this stuff. But most people don't have those because they're not very accessible and they're super expensive. You have no caster adjustment. And by just adding the spacers like these, it doesn't correct the caster of raising the hub up like that. What you end up with is a bigger gap here and a smaller gap here, which may not seem that bad for most people, but for people like me that have designed an entire car around all of this being insanely tight, even at turning radius, a little movement like that throws off the whole thing. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but now the center of the wheel is now offset back that way. It's just very weird. I know that for most people, it may not be that big of a deal, but for me, it's no bueno. Not happy with that. But I should mention it does correct roll center, which is what you want it to do. That's just kind of a con of my own, is that the caster is going to be way off. Also, for people looking at options, if you cannot decide between getting 30 mil and 35 mil, basically it is personal preference. It's totally up to you. But it also does matter how much you shortened your spindles by. I know that a lot of people shorten their spindles by about 40 millimeters. And so this then is bringing it back up 35 or 30 millimeters. The differences between these sizes on the regular roll centers, the bigger spacer you add basically adds a little bit more angle to your upper control arm. It's not going to be drastic between the two of these because they're only like 5 millimeters apart, but the bigger the spacer, the less body roll you will have in theory, which we're not really worried about body roll. Most people have really stiff springs, but say you are building a drift car or whatever and handling and suspension geometry actually means a lot to you. Bigger ones means the roll center is going to get pulled closer to the center of the car, which means less body roll. So bigger ones for drift guys, I don't know what you would need, but I'm just telling you what they're going to do. Now we're going to talk about negative roll centers. This also corrects roll center, obviously, but this is a negative roll center because it adds negative camber. And the way that it does that is that it's still a spacer, but it offsets where the hub mounts to this on top. So the lower control arm basically sits up in there like that, and then the knuckle sits on top like this, and it is pushed outwards. Obviously, as you would expect, the pros are that it does correct your roll center. By these pieces being designed so that the other hole is slightly offset, it basically corrects for the caster that you would get by spacing it upwards. This is great because it corrects your caster, which the roll centers do not do. It does have one very large con. That is the reason that I do not run them. Obviously, they add a considerable amount of camber. The other thing that you need to think about is how much they push the offset of the wheel outwards. Now, yes, they add camber at the bottom, but they also are pushing the entire hub outwards. Now, this is bad because sometimes you don't account and your fitment may not be ready for it, and you can't really fix it all that well. All you could do is add more camber at the top, but then you're ending up with way more camber than you actually wanted to have. And so it's one of those things that if you're going to run negative roll centers, you need to make sure that your wheel specs and your fitment is accounted for how much that negative roll center is going to push the offset of the wheel outwards. I hadn't even compressed the suspension yet. Now, as you can see, insanely tight fitment, which, you know, is something that people want. I can't turn anymore. I'll let you see it from the front side. You know, looks cool. You'd think that's something that you want. Look at how insane that is. Like, it can't fit anything right there. Like, the tire is all the way around, right up close on there. This is a minimum negative roll center, which is a new design. As you can see, it is still offset like the negative roll center is, but this actually has less distance this way, so it should give you less camber, and it should also give you less offset outwards, which is what I personally want, because this, for me, pushes my wheel out too far. Gives me too much camber, the fitment's too tight, can't do anything with it. This, on the other hand, might fix my issue. Minimum negative roll center adjuster, jack it up. Now, got a little bit more space, which is what I'm after, because that will allow me to probably turn. I still need to make some adjustments, because right now we're tucking, and it's not even with the weight of the car on it fully, so a little bit less offset, which is what I was going for, and a little bit less camber too. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart and I'm going to put each piece on there, and I'm going to show you side-by-side comparison so that you can see how much the wheel gets pushed out by, how much camber it's adding. It's a lot of work, but I'm doing it for you guys because I feel like this is helpful knowledge, and I'm excited that DaytonOne as a company is like wanting to produce products for this platform. So yeah. All right, now for the sake of consistency, I am unfortunately going to be showing you these demonstrations with it at full droop. I'd love to do this with the car on the ground, but I've got some other stuff that I need to address right now. I can't do that. It is going to be at full droop, but it should give you a pretty good idea as to where these will sit in comparison to each other. And I've obviously shown you them compressed anyway. So this is with no roll center adjuster whatsoever. Big old gap right there. All right, this is with regular roll center adjuster. It has now lowered the car about 30 millimeters, filled that gap in a little bit. This is the minimum negative roll center adjuster. It is going to push the offset out a little bit. The gappage right here should be fairly similar, maybe a little bit more because you're adding camber, and this is just kind of moving closer up to here, but you will see a little bit more camber, wheels pushed out a little bit further, nothing too crazy. All right, now you're looking at negative roll centers, which is going to push the wheel out pretty far, add a little bit more camber, and so of course this gap is more filled up. Now, just to clarify, there is absolutely nothing wrong with any of these options. They do just have their pros and their cons, and it is totally up to you as to which fits you the best. The main thing you want to do here is correct your roll center so that your car handles a little bit better, but there are a few different options, obviously by DaytonOne, to fit your preferences. And for me, I think I'm going to run the minimum negative roll center adjusters because these negative roll center adjusters push the wheels out just a little bit too far, which is something that I had not accounted for when I was doing the high radius flares and stuff on here. And I'm not really willing to add more camber because I would like to actually have a little bit less. So yeah, I'm going to work with the minimum negative roll center adjusters, and if you guys are interested in seeing a video on me installing those and kind of giving a review on those, that'll be a separate video after this one. This is really to go over all of the options, what they do, and kind of just give you guys a little bit of a guide as to what you may need for your car. So, all right, just to recap, 30 mil roll center adjusters, 35 mil roll center adjusters, minimum negative roll center adjuster, negative roll center adjuster. All right, I hope that this has been a helpful video for any of you guys that have LS400s. Maybe you have been confused for some time as to what roll center adjusters are, or you hear people say, you know, RCA or NRCA, or the new term MNRCA, which it's kind of a mouthful, can be confusing. You hear people throw around the word roll center all the time and you have no idea what it is. Well, I hope that this video has helped, and I hope that also you go to DaytonOne and grab some of this stuff, because for us to keep companies like this investing into these platforms, we do need to sell their products. So if you guys have an LS400 and you need any of these, which if you're slamming it, you do need these things, go over to DaytonOne. All of the links are going to be in the description. Also might see if I can get a discount code for you guys, because why not? And also if you need engine and trans spacers, they have those too, and they've had those for a couple of years now. So yeah, if you guys are able to show them some good support, because they're trying to show us some good support, hopefully they can keep developing more parts for this platform, and we can make it more and more accessible for you guys to get into these cars, slam them, make them nice for hopefully less money and safer. That's it for today's video. I appreciate you tuning in. If you've not subscribed yet, please do. I just haven't been here on YouTube for a minute. Hopefully I'm going to get back to making content, and I'm also trying to finish this car. See you guys.